But we have to get on with the issues of the day. We do have in studio with us at this time the Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, the United National Congress Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, MP Dinesh Rambally, here to talk to us about the THA deadlock, but more importantly, the changes that was made to the THA Act in the Parliament and where the opposition stands on it. So let us welcome Mr. Rambally to the program. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Natalie, and thank you for your invite to come on this morning. I want to say good morning to your viewers and your listeners, to your members of your technical team. Good morning to all of them. I want to say at the outset, Natalie, and this is a very serious matter, you have done me a great injustice by inviting me without telling me today is your birthday.
I'm so sorry.
Nonetheless, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, happy birthday to you. And I don't know, I think maybe you all should consider seriously having a morning program clip that the viewers and listeners can see.
What we're doing here.
Yes, what you all actually do here, because when I came, I have to say this for the benefit of the viewers and listeners, I heard some really nice reggae.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't appreciate I was coming into the studio because I thought this was some other station, jamming all the tunes.
Yeah.
But and all the dancing and that took place and stuff. So I want to say to your team, it really has perked up the morning.
It really does. We have a lovely, lovely time in here on the mornings because
I can see that.
Raucous is just the best DJ ever in life. You hear me tell you? So we have a really nice time. And you know what? It's the cohesion that you saw, that you enjoyed so much. Is that you just have everybody's cool, we're calm, we're comfortable with each other, so yes, we just enjoy each other's company.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of that.
Yes, morning. I'm happy you witnessed it because every morning I'm already sweaty and it's not even 6:30 as yet. So, Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, you are a lawyer, you're a legal mind.
Yes.
So the government proposed some changes to the THA Act because of the 6-6 deadlock. What are the issues that the opposition have with not supporting those changes? I know one of them is to be able to call an election, again, to increase the number of seats from 12 to 15. I think the people by now would understand the elections, what happened, the 6-6, and what we're trying to figure out is the way forward.
Well, Natalie, let me start off by saying that, yes, I am here, I am a lawyer, but as one of the sitting MPs,
yeah,
one of the 41 MPs, myself, like any one of the other 40 MPs, we are all entitled to express our views on this.
I agree.
This is a twin island republic. We have, our sister isle Tobago. All of us are entitled. So just as we would have Tobago East and Tobago West, and other members, the member for Diego Martin North, all of us, we are entitled to express our views on this matter because this is Trinidad and Tobago.
I'm happy you said that because when I posted the promo yesterday on Facebook, I saw some of those responses about why you speaking on the issue. Yes. So I did a little live video this morning to tell them the last time I checked, the government is made up of the executive and the opposition.
Yes.
And especially if you have something being debated in the House, it's both the sides of the divide that are going to be involved. And hence my reason for inviting you. It could have been any other United National Congress member of Parliament or even senator, but I chose you because you're a legal mind as well as an MP and representing the opposition. So in my mind, you have the capacity to treat with the issue.
And I think people must not forget that this is part of our democracy. So I appreciate their views,
yeah,
but what I would say is that in response to some of what you're referring to, we must remember that if our input was not necessary, there would have been no need to bring that law to the Parliament.
Yeah.
So in as much as it is there, we are entitled to debate it and to canvass our views in the public domain.
So what are the issues the United National Congress has with the changes being suggested by the government?
Natalie, I don't want to delve down into any particular clause of the bill or proposed change. What I want to say is that, yes, 25th of January, there was that election. The people of Tobago have exercised their franchise, and they have exercised and expressed their will. Their will was to say 6 seats must go to the PDP and 6 seats must also go to the PNM. I think what the people of Tobago has collectively expressed, and this is why we are in such, I want to make that clear, the United National Congress is in great admiration of the people of Tobago. What clearly they have asked for, the collective will, is that I want 2 parties to basically work together to run this country. So that is what, and particularly Tobago House of Assembly. So if you are to give credence or you have to give weight to the will of the people, that is what has been expressed. You don't simply...
I hear you, though, but the reality is with the 6-6, we have seen, unfortunately, that the political parties, the PDP and the PNM, have not been able to even agree on a presiding officer. So while I appreciate what the population has done, which is giving them equal weight, the reality is that to move forward and to be able to get the business of Tobago done, that's why we've been talking about deadlock. So how do we resolve that deadlock while giving the people their voice? Maybe that's the question. How do we do both?
Natalie, I appreciate your question. It has led me straight to where I wanted to go, which is simply, you ought to have had consultation. In a democracy, whether you want to, canvass your views, or whether you want to pilot a bill, as in this case, the bill has now been passed in the Senate, what you do is you basically have public consultation. And that is what was missing from the very beginning. So where you have this...
Public consultation on what, though? Because when we talk about the changing in the number of seats, that came out of the consultation in Tobago, wide, far-spread consultation to determine the amount of seats that they thought Tobago should have. Well, so that's something that they had consultation on before. So what exactly needed
Natalie,
consultation
I want to make it...
on?
Okay, I'm glad that you have... Let's deal with number one, your first question. I'm saying that there ought to have been consultation.
Yeah.
What is taking place today? Today there is an invitation which the Honorable Prime Minister himself has extended to all assemblymen. Don't we think that that should have been done before? These assemblymen now represent people who have voted for them and those who may not have voted for them in their particular electoral district. And so what should have happened was that all of these people ought to have had their consultations before. So what you're saying is that you have now come and you have passed a bill in the Parliament essentially taking away, as a matter of law, you have taken away the rights of these assemblymen. Now, well, by virtue of the fact that you have now passed a bill which says that you have to go back to the polls. Now, it has to be proclaimed. I accept that. But this bill is now saying that we are heading back to the polls when they have now come out of the polls and they're entitled to sit in the assembly and in a purposive way, in a meaningful way to try and have
How would we have been able to achieve that, though, Mr. Rambally? For them, with the 6-6, to sit in a meaningful way? Because I think it's a question that we have not been able to answer, which is why we ended up back to the Parliament.
Now, Natalie, before we go to that point, because it will go deeper into matters of law, the other question you asked earlier was that you had consultation which led to the 15.
Yeah.
I want to make it clear that what we have had would be successive parliamentary sessions debating Tobago self-governance. And so what happened was that you would have had prior incarnations of committees that would have been dealing with Tobago self-governance. So what the Honorable Attorney General and the Honorable Prime Minister, they have piloted before the Parliament, is this number 15 has come about as a result of consultations that took place before.
Right.
And we need to be careful with that because there is a present, an existing committee which is now dealing with it. And this is the 12th parliamentary session which is dealing with that. The agreement, the clear understanding is that whatever occurred before and is being debated again, it is being discussed again. I'm not at liberty to go into those details, but the clear understanding, and this was stated as a matter of the parliamentary record, where the clear understanding, and nobody has rebutted that, we are in a joint select committee, and the understanding is that whatever happened in the previous incarnations in dealing with Tobago self-governance, that we will go back again to the Tobago people for consultation. So whatever this committee
so the committee arrived that they would have gone back to the Tobago people for consultations.
Yes. On all aspects of the present bill. The present formulation of the bill, it is clear, and that has been stated as a matter of record before the committee, that whatever we arrive at, notwithstanding we have, especially so, notwithstanding that we have inherited previous versions of the bill and previous parliamentary sessions and committees dealing with it, whatever is decided now
go
has
back
to
to
go
the
back
Tobago
to Tobago,
people with it.
On
so you
all
believe
aspects.
The fact that Tobagonians had already signaled that they wanted 15 seats, that this would be contrary to even going back to them regardless of what you all arrive at. Is that one of the things at the committee stage that people are looking at, the number of seats, to say, okay, this might have some significant change?
Well, Natalie, what happens is this. I don't want to say that it is contrary. The fact is, this is what consultation entails, that when you discuss, it is not a matter for 5 or 6 individuals in a room being in a committee to say, okay, we accept 15 or not.
But what I'm saying is that it's not even up to the committee. Those numbers came out of consultations with Tobagonians,
yes,
suggesting what they wanted. So what I'm saying, if that even comes before the committees and all the sessions of Parliament, and as you said, the people at the committee stage aren't going against the will of the people of Tobago, correct, would that really have affected the amount of seats that they wanted? I heard your argument, yes, in the Parliament, though, that...
Remember, Natalie, we must take into context that nobody anticipated this deadlock.
Well, true.
Right? Or gridlock, but it's not really gridlock, deadlock. So what happens is that when you go to consultations, the people of Tobago will now say, we have experienced something for the first time, yeah, and therefore our position is that we should not go to 15. In fact, we should go to less, or we will go to 1 more. However they arrived at 15 before, I think that was in 2016 to 2018, around that period. We are in 2021, and this is the first time we have experienced this.
What is United National Congress's proposal for moving forward, for fixing this?
Our suggestion remains the same. From day one, we have said to obey the law, and the law is clear. There are standing orders. Standing orders are there to give effect to the law. So you may have things that exist as a matter of law. You have your elections, but when you come to dealing with matters in the Assembly or in the House of Representatives, in the Parliament, you have standing orders. These are laws in itself. So you have to interpret and contextualize everything, and you must give a purposive meaning to it.
And there is disagreement, obviously, about what those standing orders say and whether or not it can breach, because I have heard Mr. Farley Augustine raise the standing orders to say where the THA is silent on certain issues, you can go to the House of Representatives, yes, standing orders to treat with it. But is there anything within the standing orders of the House of Representatives that speaks to a deadlock, and what happens then?
Standing Order 410 makes it clear that if you have a situation where there is a deadlock, that you can essentially draw lots. Now, people look at this drawing lots as though, and the Prime Minister himself said, well, you pick up some piece of grass on the side of the road or something like that. So be it, if that is what you choose to do. But the drawing of lots is not something which has been conceptualized only with the House of Representatives.
What happened in 2000, was it 2000 and 2001 when we had the 1818 time?
Now, what would have happened is that you would have had, first and foremost, an approach taken by both sides to see whether they could work together in moving forward.
And we had that here too.
Yes. Well, what happened in this particular case, Natalie, respectfully to all who are involved, what took place was that you simply reached a stage after a certain amount of attempts.
Stalemate, yeah, nobody's giving way.
But the clerk of the House has standing orders which immediately govern the clerk. And this is what governs them. They have to give effect to that, otherwise they are now shirking their own legal responsibility. So what the clerk ought to do is to then proceed, which we are saying that you have the drawing of lots. Standing Order 92, which is of the Tobago standing orders, says that where there are occurrences which are not provided for in these standing orders, you must have recourse to the House of Representatives.
But even debating and making changes is recourse to the House of Representatives. Is it that the government has to say, okay, so THA is silent on this, right? So I'm going to the House of Representatives. The options in the House of Representatives is also changing the law to yes. treat with future situations. It doesn't have to be just a standing order. So what exactly is illegal about what the government is doing? Because I think that's the posturing I've heard from the United National Congress.
Natalie, I'm grateful for this question. What is happening is that you may term it illegal. I know that's just a terminology I've used. You are subverting the will of a people who just came out of an election.
Oh.
By not respecting the fact that they have voted 6 by 6, and therefore where you have rules, you may call it standing orders, these are laws. These are laws that govern the running of the different houses.
Right. One of the beauty about laws.
Sorry, Natalie, just one point. It is not a matter of where you are coming to the House to say, okay, we are passing laws. You are the person who has the majority vote in the House of Representatives. So that is where you are leaving behind the standing orders of the Tobago House of Assembly, and you're coming to the Parliament now where you have an obvious majority, and you're exercising that majority now to pass a law which is to break a deadlock when there's already a provision for breaking the deadlock. That is what we deem to be unconstitutional and subverting the will of the people.
I don't know that I agree with you, though, because if you're talking about a majority, in this case, a simple majority in the House,
yes,
that's how governments are formed.
Yes.
Is that if you have the majority, you have to determine what laws you're going to be putting on the table and hope you can get the support of the independent bench and the opposition, which doesn't
yes,
always pan out the way you want it to. You know, one of the things that the Prime Minister has said over the years is that, you know, we supported so many laws brought by the People's Partnership when it was in power. We don't get the same kind of support. Does it mean that every law that was brought was good or bad, or that the People's Partnership or the People's National Movement is using its parliamentary majority to pass laws? That's what you do. You have
yes,
you have an agenda, you have laws to play. So I don't know that that is a legitimate argument for me as to say, okay, you're using, you know, your majority to pass laws. I thought that's what the whole idea of government was about.
No, but
well,
Natalie,
one aspect of government.
One must take it, and again, we have to look at the context.
Mm-hmm.
If it is you have an existing law, why not exercise the existing law? Because you're saying that, yes, you can come to the Parliament and pass laws. You come to the Parliament to pass laws when there isn't a law to treat with a situation. That's number one.
Right.
Or there's some absurdity or some mischief. Are you calling the will of the people? In this particular case, you know, the PDP has 6 assemblymen and you have 6 PNM assemblymen. That is not an absurdity. That is something that has arisen, and we have had debates about whether or not these standing orders will govern situations like this.
Yeah, but I think what the government
the House
is
of
trying
Representatives
to do,
standing orders, when it was passed and when it was being debated in the past, you had sitting members of this government who said, this is a watershed moment, that we are having this, so that if we have a tie, we will have the drawing of lots.
What happened the last time we had a tie? Since we're reverting to the House of Representatives, the standing orders, that's the argument by the United National Congress. What happened the last time Trinidad and Tobago had a tie, and what did it do to fix that tie?
Now, what they did at the time, Natalie, again, the first approach was to try and hammer out a consensus. That worked for a period of time, and then there was a, I would say, let me not say handing over, but then the president, under the Constitution, declared who would be the Prime Minister. And that is where you have people on either side of the divide talking about good spiritual and moral values and all of these things. That's a debate on its own.
Yeah.
What you have here in the immediate circumstances, we must not forget, is you have a situation arising, you have law to treat with it, and you have not consulted. This consultation, mind you, could have very well gone away from the standing orders and away from what even you and I are discussing, or even the UNC, just simply to talk about, is there a person in Tobago who we can repose confidence in, who we can say, look, we will say, okay, we're going to hand over, we're going to have a presiding officer, and then we're going to have
I think what you're suggesting to me is what you say, reasonableness or reasonable people.
But Natalie, why is the Prime Minister having this meeting today then?
It doesn't work.
No, but why is the Prime Minister holding a meeting with all assemblymen today?
Because they've asked for it. They've asked, I've heard the PDP ask for the Prime Minister to meet with all of them and say that the Prime Minister has been meeting with the Tobago PNM Council.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the thing is that there are 12 assemblymen. So
Correct.
I think that's why he's listening to what they're asking for. So I don't have an issue with that.
So you come to the Parliament, you pass a law, and now you're going to meet with the assemblymen. This is exactly the reason why we are saying...
But does the Parliament need to meet with the assemblymen to pass the laws?
No, it is a matter of good governance. It is a matter of, if you want to be fair, even though you may have a simple majority in the Parliament, you have to govern with some measure of fairness. So you have
What is unfair about going back to the board, going to the Parliament and say, okay, we have this deadlock. These are things that came out of the consultation out of Tobago. So let us change these things so that in the future, if we ever end up here, there's something in place to treat with it. What's unfair about that?
Number one, Natalie, I told you there is existing law to treat with the situation.
There's no existing law within the THA to treat with the situation.
No, That's one. You have to have recourse to the standing orders. And this is something, even I heard, and I was very appreciative that Independent Senator Welch spoke about the fact that you have these existing standing orders.
So you believe that they should draw lots? lots.
They should draw lots. That is what the law provides. But number two...
Would the United National Congress have been comfortable if they draw the lots and the People's National Movement still end up leading the THA?
But each side has a 50-50 chance. Each side has a chance.
That's not the question, though.
Yes,
would the United National Congress
Natalie,
be okay and comfortable?
The answer is that the United National Congress would have obeyed the law, and yes, we would have been comfortable to say, let us draw the lots. But I want to move on away from that drawing lots and the standing orders. Number two, you have a scenario where people have rights, both the individuals who voted to see their will expressed in the assembly, and number two, you have the assemblymen who have rights in their own way.
But you also have precedent, though. And even with that 1818 tie, people went back to the polls a year after. And it doesn't mean that their constitutional right was taken. It's also their democratic rights to go to the polls.
Yes.
Now, the question is, what is so wrong with going back to the polls? Because you're still going to get the opportunity to exercise your franchise.
We are going to the other point. So I have listed standing orders. I have spoken about the fact that you have people with their individual franchise, and I'm talking about the assemblymen with their rights. Yeah. Let's take it up a notch. You also have the issue of where you are now giving an instruction to the Elections and Boundaries Commission. In fact, in the debate last night, almost all, I don't want to misquote, but almost all of the independent senators had asked that if it is this bill, you want to pass this bill, you want to get the support, we are saying go back to the polls, but with the same 12. But there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that.
But I saw the Attorney General counter that to talk about the fact that it was by law, it was by an act of Parliament, that they made the changes to the THA when it was one council and it became 12 seats.
Yes.
So again, there is precedent that has set the pathway to say, okay, you can change the numbers.
But Natalie, you have an Election and Boundaries Commission that has a methodology. I didn't devise it, the UNC didn't devise it.
Right.
Every election.
But what I'm saying is nothing against the EBC, we know this, but the EBC and the law, according to the Attorney General, if he's wrong, then you let me know, speaks about general elections. And he gave the example because, funny enough, when I finished at the hairdresser last night going down the road, I heard his contribution and I was like, thank you, Jesus, because, you know, MP is coming tomorrow, so it would be nice to hear both sides of the divide. And he spoke about that it was an act of Parliament because with the THA, it's like local government, right? That it went from one council, just as when it was just Tobago, so then it was Tobago East and West.
Natalie,
when it was one council to 12 districts.
You have had, over a period of time, the EBC using a formula. I don't like to use it formula. Let me use a methodology.
But that wasn't the EBC formula, though. That was an act of Parliament to change from one council to 12 seats. Was it illegal then?
No, it is not a matter of that it was illegal then. What you are dealing with now is that you are telling people, and this is what was expressed in the Senate yesterday. We had said it in the lower house, but the Senate also took on to this point, that you are dealing with a situation, you are the person, the entity that has this majority, and you're using your majority to now say, okay, from 13 to go to 15. And therefore what you're doing is you're bringing an independent body into an arena where people will now have an elusive confidence in whether you can, in fact, have a proper functioning 15 electoral districts. How are you going to get out of 12? Remember,
how did you go from 1 to 12?
Well, Natalie, over the period of time, you would have had EBC reports telling you that, look,
but that wasn't an EBC report, though. That's the point I think the Attorney General made, that it was an act of Parliament, that when looking at Tobago, and he said it was not a numbers game at that point.
Yes.
It was determining that, and he said at the time, Tobago didn't even have the population it did then, Natalie, when it went from one council to 12 seats. So what's so different now?
What is different now is that you have, the EBC has functioned over a period of time. We are talking about 20-something years at least, where the EBC has been producing reports after each election. And you had 2016 report and you had 2020 report. December 2020 saying
talking
that
about boundaries and numbers.
But saying that, and they haven't just said it in generalized words, you know. They have shown how they have appreciated the different numbers, and they have said that there is no need, and well, I don't want to put words. They have said that there is no need to change any electoral districts or boundaries.
Right. So I heard that, but you're talking about the EBC said that looking at the THA, understandably so. But now you have a point, as you said, we are somewhere where we weren't before.
Yes.
And I don't know that an act of parliament is not one option,
but
not the only option,
you can't
not
take
one
it.
option on the board that you can exercise to treat with the deadlock.
But you can't treat with it A, B, C, so you tick off A, this can't work, so we move to B. You have to take all of these points in the round.
Yeah.
If you have an existing law and it provides for the scenario, we have talked about that. I don't want to go back to that. You are now talking about the EBC. You are telling the EBC with the same given population, 51,000 voters, whatever it may be, 51,200, and you are saying to that EBC, you go and devise not 13, not 11. You, using your majority, you have arrived at 15. Now, I can say, I want to pose this in reverse. The people of Chaguanas West, we had 30-something thousand persons that vote. And they have been saying, but why do we have 30-something thousand persons under one electoral seat? We should have 2 seats in Chaguanas West. Do we just simply say, well, the people have spoken and we now break it up? The EBC has a rule. The EBC has a function. They are independent. This is setting a very vicious precedent where you are using your majority to say to the EBC, I want you to go now and find 3 additional seats because it suits us now.
Mr. Rambally, yes. we are out of time, unfortunately. We will have a part 2, hopefully.
Natalie, in parting, I want to say happy birthday to you.
All right, 25 minutes with you. I have to go, but thank you so much, Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, United National Congress member Dinesh Rambally talking to us. He says, go to lots, draw lots. There are things to deal with the deadlock. We take a break and we'll be back with you.
Natalie.